Second.
All right, motion second, all in favor of the amendment, raise your right hand. Okay, items for discussion is our fiscal year 21-22 budget. Brian, would you like to tell us what we need to do?
I'll be glad to kind of kick you off, Mr. Chairman. So where we are is the departments have come in and answered questions relating to their budgets. You've heard service expansions from both inside and outside, and asked questions about those. So now is, the night for the board to really sit down and decide what it is you want us to do to the budget, any changes you want to make to the manager's recommended budget, any additions, deletions. And our hope would be that if you're able to do that tonight, that you would let us know how you want to proceed so that we can either go ahead and put the budget ordinance together, because at the next board meeting, you will have a public hearing. I don't know if the board intends to take action after that public hearing or not. If you do intend to take action, or you feel like you might take action, then we would need to know so that we could go ahead and prepare the budget ordinance, because you need to have that in writing for you to take action on it. So, and just a reminder that if you don't, we also have a special called meeting already established for next Thursday night, for you to do that if you decide you don't want to take that action on Monday night. So we're here. I have a spreadsheet where we can work off of with pluses and minuses as you go through it, just to kind of keep you where you are. But otherwise, we're here to answer any questions you have. But I'll turn it back to you, and it's y'all's budget, and depending upon how you want to do it. Thank you.
All right, questions, comments before we get started?
I've got a procedural question.
Okay.
Do I understand that anything that's in the expansion budget has to be pulled out and voted on in order for it to be included in the new budget?
What we've been doing in the past, unless we want to change, need to change it tonight, we've been taking a straw vote either to put it in or to take something out.
Okay, but the budget as presented, for instance, the expansion items.
Yes. Yes.
They'll have to be voted on individually
Yes.
in order to be included
Yes.
in the budget. And so will any of the other expansion items anywhere in the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll do each one of them on a straw vote. And Anita will be keeping us up to date if there's any questions about kind of where we are. So the floor is open for the first recommendation.
Well,
Where the expansion budget is on 161.
let me ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
If somebody doesn't bring it up for a vote, then it's not included in the budget.
That's
I mean,
correct.
if it's overlooked, then it
That's
doesn't
correct.
get included in the budget.
So if there's anything at all that you want considered, we need to put it on the table tonight. Brian?
Just one quick note for you. As Anita spoke to you last session, we do have the USDA loan debt. Remember, we talked about that, where the issuance costs, we were paying those. So she has included that. You want to hit that real quick?
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Yes, so we do have the final amortization schedule for that new loan, and there's a change of $76,414 between the old or the existing USDA loan debt annually and what that new payment will be. And so the offset to that is contingency. Currently, we have about $422,000 in contingency in next year's budget. So that reduces that number by the same amount. And then also, you might remember DSS during their presentation saying that there was an extra $10,000 in contract services that could be removed. So we're showing that as a deduction on our spreadsheet. So that'll be our starting point there, if Melissa wants to bring up the spreadsheet for us.
Is that a 10,000 even? Is that what
Yes.
you're using? Okay, 10,000.
Melissa, you want to grab my screen? Thank you.
All right, floor's open.
Well,
Yes, sir.
okay, on the expansion budget, I would like to wait on the last two items that are on that budget, which is an additional employee for the tax assessor, two additional employees for the tax assessor, actually. And I would like to do those defer those until after we meet with the tax assessor on his overall personnel things in closed session, and then consider these two things. In other words, I'd rather not vote on them tonight until we finish with him Monday night at our meeting.
So I'm assuming that would be done outside of the budget. That wouldn't be part of the budget ordinance. We would actually be looking at that as a separate agenda item for our meeting in June.
No, I'm not saying take it out of the budget procedure. I'm saying don't consider it until after we complete our meeting Monday night, because we'll have a lot more information.
What are we doing Monday night?
Isn't on the...
Well, on Monday night, we're going to determine if we have a budget ordinance to vote on Monday night, or if we do what you're saying, then I'm assuming we'd have to wait until Thursday night.
No, I don't advocate waiting until Thursday night. I just advocate, isn't there a closed session with the tax assessor on Monday night?
I've not seen.
Didn't we talk about that and agree on that? You, I, the manager, and Commissioner Deathridge?
We talked about it, but I mean, I've not seen the actual agenda.
The agenda's not done yet. I mean, we have a closed session scheduled, yes, sir.
So it's going to be on there. Okay, well, I'm just saying procedurally, wait until after that to vote on this. This is still a part of the budget. We will not have voted on the budget by that time unless we decide to vote on the budget after the meeting on Monday night, after the, yeah.
Well, if you want it to be part of this, I think what we're doing is we're saying that we're going to end up having that special meeting on Thursday night to vote on the budget ordinance.
I think what he's saying is, even if we vote on the budget ordinance on Monday night, what he's saying is, let's talk about these two positions, and then before the night's over with, if we're going to approve the budget, then approve it. So I think what he's saying is your budget ordinance should be flexible enough where you can just make that one change about those two positions. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the budget ordinance is still open Monday night. The budget hasn't been voted on, so we're not violating procedures. I'm just saying, let's not vote on it tonight. Let's wait until we meet with the assessor on Monday night, get some more information about personnel, and then vote on it when we are fully informed.
Okay. Did you have a comment? Okay.
No, I think it would push you either. So essentially the way I would see that flowing in the meeting would be that you would have your public hearing on whatever you come up with tonight. If you leave that item open, we would not be able to give you a complete budget ordinance for the public hearing. You would then have a closed session at the end of your meeting, which you normally do have at the end of your meeting, and then maybe come back after that and vote on the budget, or come back Thursday and vote on the budget, which would give us time to adjust the ordinance as you needed to. But either way, I think you just want to let folks know, because I'm sure there are folks who are interested in how the budget vote goes on whether they need to stay after the closed session, if you intend to have action after the closed session, maybe.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem with voting on the budget ordinance Monday at the regular meeting. I'm not trying to, I think we're so close on that, I can't see anything getting in the way. There are no big items.
Everybody fine with that? Okay. Okay, I'll start if nobody else wants to start. Under the cooperative extension, I would like to see us add the livestock agent, which our part of it would be $13,777. That's because part of it's funded by NC State and part of it is funded by, is it one other county? Martin. So.
One other college.
Yes, two, NC State University and the other land grant university.
But This individual will be housed in Martin County. He won't be working assigned with an office.
Yeah, but he'd be participating in activities in Beaufort County. So I threw that out there, and I'll call for a straw vote on it.
Just only one, just only one you got cool.
Well, I guess since it's different items, I've got one more under the cooperative extension, but it's that program support part. So I'm assuming we got to do it separate.
I just have a problem with adding bodies to the payroll, so I can't vote for it to increase the size of government for something that's a minimal benefit to people of Beaufort County.
Well, I can understand that. All those in favor of doing the livestock agent, raise your right hand. 3. Those opposed? Okay. All right. Under the programs,
So you know, he explained that position was going to be helping people plant gardens. It wasn't really working with farmers,
well,
so.
they're part of their role in that department is not only working with farmers but also consumers. I mean, that's a big thing as it relates to. That's the reason NC State's involved in it, and I guess our other land grant universe. All right, under the cooperative extension service, I was going to make a recommendation that we do the additional support. If I can find that.
Push it back up a minute.
Yes.
The other parties
Yes, sir.
that voted on this position has already taken a stand on that, am I correct? I think they're about finished.
That I don't know. I know that Martin County is carrying the lion's share of it,
Okay.
but I don't know where they are on their budget yet. They may have already, I can't remember whether Rod said they already voted to put it in there or not.
I don't know whether, but I think it's,
I can shoot him a text, see if I can find out.
Rod is on his way to Rod there talking. But anyway, I know that has nothing, well, I can't do anything about it.
Okay, under the support for the cooperative extension service, under the horticultural agent program support 2,000 and the ag agent program support 2,000 and the livestock and small farms agent program support 2,000. I'd recommend that we do all 3 of those, which would be a total of 6,000.
Well, the problem on these things is when you vote for them, and it's this tiny amount of money right now, they have a tendency to grow, and we have a tendency to fund more and more of it, and I just think it's adding to the government bureaucracy, and I've got enough government bureaucracy to satisfy me.
Well, these are just supporting ag agents that are involved in the farming community, and it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's our largest industry in the county. So I think they're entitled for us to give them that little extra push.
Mr. Chairman, I'd take you on that. That's socialism. That's taking the public's money and rewarding industry with it, and that's not right.
Well, they pay taxes, so
Still socialism.
I don't consider that socialism. But anyway, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. All right, now I will yield to somebody else.
You got it?
I have 4 items altogether. I'm going to go to the general fund, and the first one on my list is the longevity for the employees.
And that's on page 165. Okay, at this time, are we looking, I'm assuming, Anita, just at the general fund part, not the enterprise? Okay, So on the general fund part, that's $302,690. This is a benefit that was stopped in 2003, if I'm reading this right. 2003.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We've given everybody in the county raises and raises and raises for the last 2 years. All we've done is sat here and voted to increase the salary of government employees. And I mean, we had longevity before, and it really didn't work, was the reason we got rid of it. So I'm not interested in getting back into it again.
Any other comment? Go ahead, John.
I have an issue with the plan. I think longevity bonuses are good in the absence of a merit plan based, but I don't think this is going to, giving out annual bonuses for longevity just doesn't seem to me to be the right method of doing it. So.
Well, I was not here when we were doing it before. You have got any comment?
I wasn't here either.
Oh, you were not?
Would you consider setting a certain time frame after 5 years?
Well, the 1 year thing bothers me, because then if somebody just stays for 1 year and then gets a bonus and leaves the next day, you're not achieving the goal.
When I was a state employee, you had to do it had to be an employee for 10 years. But I'm thinking more in the lines of 5, because I think 5 would help us more than having to wait 10 years for it.
It was 5 previously, right? According to this write-up?
I don't think it's in here, is it?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I think I can help with that. As I recall, it was a 5% bonus, or excuse me, we keep saying bonus. It was 5% added to the base, which is what is recommended here, not a bonus. 5% added to the base for every 3 years of service. That was the old plan.
For every 3 years? For every 3 years?
After every 3 years of service.
After.
Yes.
Does that give you heartburn?
I like 5.
So just for us to be clear, when you say 5, are you saying look back 5, or are you saying start and move forward with 5? That's where we need to figure out for budgeting. Who's eligible? If you're saying look for a certain number of years to say, okay, now you are eligible, you have to have worked here for 10 years before you're even eligible for that. So you would look back and say, somebody's been here for 10 years. Okay, now they're eligible. Or are you saying starting year 1 right now, you have to work for 5 years, and then everybody who's been here for 5 years becomes eligible? That's just some of the details or clarifications we would need to know to be able to put it together.
Well, my thoughts are, if you have 5 years of service, then you're eligible. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, so you would look retrospectively to see who has been here for at least 5 years, and they would then be eligible, and then what does it look like going forward for those people?
The way I've always seen it is this way. Once you qualify for it, then it's an annual thing.
Then that gets back to Commissioner Rebholz's maybe concern. I don't know. You were saying every year you didn't like every year, so I guess the compromise between the two.
I think his concern was year 1.
Well, I think it's every year, even after the 5 is a problem,
Okay.
okay?
So is there then a compromise that says, okay, you look back and you say, anybody who's been here 5 years is now eligible?
Right.
And then it takes X number of years before you get the first one, whether that be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever.
Well, my view would be you're eligible at year 5, when you've been here 5, for your first one.
Are we looking backwards to get
Yes.
people eligible, or are we
That's
starting
my
year
view, I
one?
don't know.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the difference. You said look back, and you're saying don't look back. Is that
I'm
right?
saying look back.
You are saying look back. Okay. So 5 years is the eligibility standpoint, and then moving forward, what does it look like?
The purpose is to retain quality employees, right?
The purpose is to both retain quality employees and to help give us some spread due to compression issues for those who stay, yes. So it's twofold.
Okay. And you've been dealing with the compression issues. My view is that's less of an issue than being sure that we retain quality employees.
I think.
Aside of that, okay, aside of that, then I would think that if you do it at year 5, 10, 15, 20.
Okay, so then you would need to give us a percentage for us to say.
Yes.
Well,
Somebody-
if you're gonna do that, I mean, I think you should do it as the state do it. 5 years get 1%, 10 years get 1, 15 years get another percentage, 20 get 1, and 30 get 1. I mean, and by then you're gonna be out of here all together unless you hood riches. And that's the way I would do it.
Is that the state? I don't know.
That's the way the state does it. I mean, that's what they did 13 years ago. I can't say what they're doing now. Is that right? It was a percentage. I mean, 5 years you get it, 10 years you get another increment, 15 years, and 20 years, 25 years it was capped off. If I'm not mistaken, it was capped off at 25 years.
You see, and the way that the state did it, it was not added to base salary. These were just, on your anniversary, you got this longevity.
It's a bonus.
There was a bonus.
But I understand the manager, excuse me, Mr. Manager, I understand his position too. The way we're doing, I mean, I just think the employees deserves it, but the way we're doing it now don't do much to help us with compression.
Yes, sir, and I think the issue when the consultant looked at it, I mean, it's not me, it's when the consultant looked at it and said, you have compression issues. And what compression issues means is somebody went to work for Beaufort County 20 years ago, and they were being paid this much. They were being paid $20,000, okay? Every year since there, you've had a COLA, or whenever COLAs happen. COLAs adjust the range, so their salary went up, and the entry-level salary also went up. And then you have somebody who comes in and they get hired at the minimum, same thing, and they're being paid the same amount of money as the person who's been here 20 years. That's compression. And what we're trying to do, typically the way you deal with compression, I mean, go back to the presentation she did. There's usually 3 legs to the payments, to the pay plan stool. One is COLA, which keeps everybody at market, tries to keep everybody at market. There is merit, which says if you are an outstanding employee, then you get an additional bump, or if you're just a mediocre, or if you just come and do your job, you've already been paid for that. That helps spread people out. It helps with compression. And then the third is longevity. And typically, absolutely right, Commissioner, longevity is typically, in normal situations, a one-time payment that does not go to base. Typically, most local governments do it around Christmas time. They say you've been here, maybe you get 1% for every year you've been here. So you've been here 10 years, you get a 10% one-time payment at Christmas. There you go. Or however you set it up, but it's usually a one-time payment and it's not to your base, so it doesn't adjust your base. In our discussions with the consultant, we said, we've got a board who does not want to put in place merit structure. How do we deal with that to deal with compression? She said, take your longevity and instead of making it a one-time payment, add it to your base. And then someone who's been here for 5 years is like at the 2% here, if they're below midpoint, then they would be up 10%. So somebody coming in behind them after 5 years would be making 10% less than that person. They've been here 5 years, so they've moved up. So it helps address that compression. That's the reason it goes, to your point, goes to base instead of typically going toward just one time. Let me go one more time. So what I think I've heard you say as you're considering this is you would start from today look back 5 years and say, who has been here 5 years? Of the people who have been here 5 years, they would then be eligible to be considered for this program. Then you said moving forward, you were looking at 5-year increments. So I'm now eligible for the program, I stay here 5 years, and then there's some percentage that gets added at the end of that 5 years to my base, I think, is what you're saying. And then if I stay here for another 5 years, something else gets added to my base. And then if I stay here another 5 years, something else gets added to my base. Is that what I'm hearing? I just don't know what that percentage is.
Yes. Okay. And I guess we'd have to think through those percentages, but doing it every year in the first 5 years seems to me that doesn't necessarily get anybody to stick around.
And I think Becky's look at that was saying that what you're trying to do is take people who've been here a long time and got that compression and trying to drive them to midpoint. And once you get them to midpoint, then you slow them down a little bit. But again, when you try to manipulate a traditional manner of doing things so that it fits something else, you can have those issues. So I certainly understand what you're saying, absolutely. Do you want us to look at the state plan and see if we can find out why y'all continue to talk? Oh, there it is. 10 years but less than 15 years is 1.5%. 15 to 20 years is 2.25%. 20 but less than 25 is 3.25%. And 25 or more is 4.5%. And that is incorporated in the base pay before computing longevity. Okay.
So that's
They start at
every
10
5 years they're
They
looking
start
at.
at 10 years.
Okay.
So you have to work for the state for at least 10 years before you're eligible for that.
I'd like for us to be at 5. That's my proposal. That's my proposal, 5 years.
What are you, 2%? Well, that's a sliding scale that the state uses.
That's because you value each year.
Yes.
Every 5 years. The one that started 5 years don't get it until they get the 10 years of service.
The way I understand what you've laid out right here is, if I've been here for 5 years, I'm now eligible. Then I have to go 5 more years before I get the bump. And then I have to go another 5 years before I get the second bump. And it's 5-year increments. What we're trying to figure out is, what is that bump? I think the state slides, so what it says is I've been here 5 years, or I've been here in that range, I get 1.25. If I've been here even longer, I get more of a bump. Do you want a set bump like 2.5%, 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%, or do you want it to say, okay, you've been here for 5 years, it's 2%. If you've been here the next 5 years, it's 4%. Next year, it's 6%, so that you bump it up as the years of service grow. I guess that's truly trying to hold people, because then they can say, well, I got my 2.5. What does it matter if I stay here 5 more years? I'm only get 2.5. But if I stay here 5 years, I might get 4. I don't know.
Well, I think every 5 years there should be an increase in the amount. I mean, you don't want it to just be flat.
Can we take a vote that we have them come up with something similar to the state plan, starting with 5?
I don't have a problem with what the state plan. I don't have a problem with that. It's good enough to know what's going on around, but we good enough to vote now.
So you're saying 10 years?
No, well, I like the 5 years.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
But they're starting at 10.
The implement.
Okay. Randy? Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we could do is we could take the state's plan. They start at 10, you want to start at 5. And we could say, if you've been here between 5 but less than 10, it's 1.5%. If you've been here 10 but less than 15, it's 2.25. So we could take this language and just bump it back to 5 years. They start at 10, you want to start at 5. So we could do it that way. And I'm anticipating this is probably on anniversary date.
And it is a bonus, it's not added to the base, right? I couldn't tell from reading here.
It doesn't matter to me, well.
I mean, if you're trying to do the longevity, I think it's the base. I would think it's what they're doing at the state level.
So I'm going to just read it. It says, note, salary increases effective on the longevity eligibility date shall be incorporated in the base before computing longevity. I don't know exactly what that means, but
Well, it's not a bonus, it's being added to the base, their base salary. All right,
that does help you with the compression issue. If you were to do it as just a one-time payment, it doesn't help you with compression.
okay, let's see if we got enough support here to come up with a number to put into the budget.
Would we have any way of knowing what the estimated initial cost would be?
Well, what I was going to suggest is that Anita put some number in there right now, 300,000, some number, just so that we realize the size of it. But until somebody looks at it, I'm not sure what it is.
Some people get the bucket of people probably be 5 or less. It's not that many between 5 and 10.
If your eligibility, starting eligibility is 5 years, we probably have a significant a portion of the census that has been here at least 5 years. And that's where everybody starts according to this. Then it moves forward after that.
Okay, all those in favor of proceeding with the longevity plan, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. 4-3. All right.
All right, my next one is still in the general fund, and it has to do with salary again, and this proposal is for the 2% COLA.
Okay. Any comments? All right. This one's kind of cut and dry. I mean, doesn't involve the discussion we had before. All right, 2% on the COLA. All those in favor of the 2%, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right. 4-3.
I would propose that we go with 1%.
Okay. Those that would go with the 1%, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Did you vote, Randy? I mean, Stan?
It was 6-1.
6-1, okay.
All right, fine. My next one is concerning the maintenance department, and that's the reclassification of the supervisor place to a worker. And I think that's a minimum cost. And I think it can be found within their budget. I think we just have to approve the change.
Is that the one on
$6,300.
page 389, if you want to look for more details? All right, all those in favor of the reclassification of the, okay, it's 389, Ed.
It's the position that Annette had, it's being moved from a supervisor down to an actual worker.
Well, why is it, it's gonna cost us $6,000 extra?
And that's pretty much for uniforms and stuff like that.
Okay. All those in favor of the reclassification of the position in the Public Works for maintenance, facility maintenance?
Does this mean another vehicle?
It's not in here.
They said they were going to use one of their existing water department vehicles.
So my understanding from this is that additional funding will be found within the existing budget to cover this. This will not be an additional cost to the,
Correct.
Okay, so it's not a plus. Okay. All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those, all right, 7-0.
All right. The last one on my list is to give the sheriff back his 5 positions that were frozen.
Well, I'd like to hear a justification for the 5 positions.
Well, the positions are actually needed, and I said when they were frozen, and they came back wanting them, and they wasn't frozen.
No, it wasn't frozen.
No, they weren't frozen. They were taken out.
Don't try to clean it up. It wasn't frozen.
Well, at any rate, those 5 positions were not filled last year. In last year's budget, they were taken out so that they could do those pay increases. But it's, the need is there for those 5 officers back. I mean, I understand the debacle with the school system, and I'm not even examining that. I'm just going with the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's department. And I will say this, and everybody knows this, I spent 14 years at that sheriff's department. It'll always be dear to my heart, and I'll always try to do all I can to make sure that they can continue to do the best job that they could possibly do. Whether I think the world of the administration or not, that doesn't matter to me. I'm just interested in doing what's right for the citizens of Beaufort County.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Let's see if I got this right. The sheriff is willing to give the county less service for a year so that he can give a huge pay increase to his favorite employees, 10 or 15 of them, that's going to happen every year after year after year, and we're supposed to go along with only doing this 1 year and then putting the money back in the budget for the future. A little bit of common sense tells me that he knew that he could run the sheriff's department without those 5 employees, or he wouldn't have agreed to not have them. So I don't understand why the public should be abused by this process, because this is not a business process. It doesn't make one lick of sense. It's a game that people play, and the sheriff, I asked the chief deputy in here twice, show me some justification for why you need these people in terms of numbers, rather than just saying, we need people, we need people. And that hasn't happened yet. My telephone hasn't rang saying that there's less service in the sheriff's department. So I think we're just throwing bad money, well, we're throwing bad money after bad money is what we're really doing. And I can't support increasing the number of people in the sheriff's department based upon the fact that the sheriff can't tell us why he needs these people.
Well, when you look at the 13 school resource officers, which we no longer will have come July 1, those individuals were leaving the school and they were doing other things within the sheriff's department. There was weekends that they were able to do things. There were summer months that they were able to do things. And when you looked at the hours, the number that John, I think, actually came up with showed us that it was the equivalent of about 4 full-time employees, if I remember, John. So, you know, there are 4 people that no longer can be out there on patrol on the south side or the north side. And that's only one when you look at 365 days of the year, when you look at 4 positions.
Tell me how many cases we've had that have gone sour. Tell me how many criminals have escaped. Tell me how many domestics have, disputes have not been serviced as a result of not having enough deputies. Nobody can do that.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is that before last year, we had 107 positions. And we passed that it would stop at 102, so that's 5. And then we've seen a change in school resource officers that if you compute that, that's roughly 4. So that's 9 people that were doing other things. I don't know the statistics, what you're saying. I just want us to keep from having something to happen. I don't want something to happen that we could have saved a life, because these people are also first responders. They're normally the first ones there on a 911 call, and they can help save someone. So it's not just about showing up when somebody's been robbed or somebody's been stabbed in Aurora or Belhaven. It's that additional force that we need in the county.
But nobody has given us data. There are no numbers that say how many people are arrested, an increase in crime, an increase in that, an increase in something. The sheriff's running a secret society. He will not even appear before this group to justify why he needs these people. And here we are sitting here saying we need people, we need people. There are no numbers to justify this. Nowhere else in the world that I know of that you can get away with demanding more employees and not being able to submit some data to justify it. And he hasn't done that. So we are just, you're throwing money away that's totally unjustified. Nobody has came to me and said the sheriff didn't investigate, couldn't investigate, he didn't have enough people, blah, blah, on and on. That's not happening.
Right.
So
That's because you're in Washington. If you're in Aurora, you would hear that. Okay?
I hear from people in Aurora
all the time.
I talk to people in
Okay.
Aurora, I talk to people all over the county. The numbers have not been presented. It is only an opinion, and that should not mean anything to a governing body that's doing the job for the public. Show us some data as to why you need these people. Now, other police departments and sheriff's departments give their commissioners monthly and regular reports so that you can see what's going on. We are clueless. When you vote for this, you really don't know what you're voting for. I mean, it's a sham.
Well, we're voting for what we had.
Yes.
You was correct in your numbers, 102 last year, but you were incorrect and said we reduced them. We did not reduce them. They was given to us. Those 5 positions were given to us. And I hope the media get that straight, because I hear it all the time. Yes, in Aurora, Acre Station too, that's where I live sometimes, But we did not, as I told the vice chair, we did not take those 5 positions. Now, the discussion now is whether we want to put them back, but I also wanted to be out there that we did not take them. That was given to us.
And that was agreed to during the budget last year with the sheriff's representatives. So, okay, Randy?
And least we not forget, the person that actually did get rid of deputies was the sheriff. And I still don't understand that exchange, because those people were good folks. Some of them had 16 years of employment. They were all, licensed and had everything they needed to be a deputy, and he let them go. So now he wants 5 back that all have to be retrained and everything. Very confusing.
Any other comment? Okay. Did you have something?
Just remember.
John, did you have something?
No.
Okay.
I got one question for John. What did you get that data from? I mean, what's the equivalent to what they do when you don't know what they do? Where did you get that data from? Pass it on so I can vote for these 5.
You mean arriving at needing 4 to replace the lost? If you take the amount of days that they're employed on a year, okay, the amount of days they work, you subtract out of that the number of school days there are, and then we put in a factor for they would still be at the school for extracurricular activities.
How many miles is it from here to the Hyde County line?
I mean, what?
How many miles is it from here to the Hyde County line?
Well, I can tell you what it is to Swan Quarter to the ferry.
Well, we don't have one in Swan Quarter, we have the Hyde County line.
All right. Any other comment? Okay. Those in favor of putting the 5 positions back in the budget, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-3. All right. Did you have another one?
I'm done.
Randy?
Understand that the social worker for DSS gets 50% reimbursement. I'm okay with that. But I don't think it's time to replace all the flooring in DSS, so that's a no. I'm okay with the social worker, but no on the flooring. I've seen it, and certainly there are repairable spots.
Yes.
What dollar amount do you want to put with it? Repairing it?
Well,
Come on, bring it on out.
I tell you what, let's do. We got to vote on them anyway, separately. Turn your mic on, Randy. So you do the first one,
okay,
which is the employee.
sure.
Okay.
All right. So I want to do that.
Is that like 45, 55, or?
50% reimbursement, I think.
Okay, 50-50.
That's the supervisor, right?
Yeah.
The added supervisor.
And that, if I remember correctly, that gets him back to where the ratio of 5 to 1, or less than 5. Okay, all those in favor of the position for DSS of social work supervisor 3, and that's in the child welfare, I believe, area, child protective service. Raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. All right, now if you want to bring up the flooring.
Yeah, I just think we can wait a year or so to replace all of that flooring. I don't think I've seen it, it's not that bad.
This would be for the staff. The 1 cent tax that goes to maintenance, would this entire project qualify if we chose to put it under there?
It would. You have recommended projects in your budget right now that the county engineer has put forward to you that she thinks that you need to use that 5 cent,
But-
1 cent for.
But we could ask for it to be put in there a year from now.
Or you could ask that it be included in that it just get taken out. I mean,
Is that what
you
you're
still
saying?
get-
Is that
you
what
still
you're
get the
saying,
same.
Randy, is put that off a year and maybe put it in that?
Put it off a year.
And then put it in,
Quite possibly, yes.
Do they have any, Tim, do they have any money towards this project? I mean, DSS? Do they have any money towards that flooring?
I'm not 100% sure of the details of their budget, but I don't believe they typically would have a facilities budget of that magnitude. No, sir. But I believe the areas of their flooring, there are certain areas of the flooring that definitely need some immediate attention. There's no doubt about that. So that is something that will be addressed in this coming year. We do have something needs to be done in some of those locations. But I believe what DSS has presented is more of a phased plan where they were looking to redo the entire floor and the entire building, and they did that in a multi-year plan, trying to break that out in order to spread the cost out over multiple years. But there are some definitely areas there where the tile is crumbling, and it definitely needs to be repaired in certain locations.
I seen the tiles, and I didn't go over there to get the job. I went over there to see the tiles. And you're right.
Yes,
There are some in bad places
Yes.
that need some work doing.
yes.
So my understanding is there's 50% payment for us generally on, we get 50% maintenance back anyway on items over there. The state reimburses 50%. So if you broke it down in regular maintenance and took it in small little sections, there would be 50%. If you did it as a large project, the state looks at that and says, we won't give you 50% of that at one time. We will spread it over 7 years and give it back to you.
Okay.
So you can take it in small chunks, fix little areas, and still get your 50% back. Or you could say, do it as a big project and wait 7 years to get all your money back, because they wouldn't give it to you 50% in 1 year.
Okay.
Don't they have a maintenance guy over there that, I feel certain that he could repair these places that are so terribly bad that they need attention? Nobody knows better than I.
That's what scared me, man.
Are you shaking your head, Christina?
I don't believe that that's the case. No, sir. Not actually taking up the existing VCT and doing what would need to be done. I don't believe his skill set is to that. But I do believe, and I don't have the exact numbers, we haven't put it out to bid and gotten hard numbers on that, but I think the areas that, and I have not been there to look at within recent weeks or recent months, but I am familiar with the general area where the buildings are connected. Have you been very recently, Commissioner Booth? And it is where the two buildings have connected, so in those general areas. And I believe, and I've spoken with staff at DSS in general terms about that, and we are on the same page because, again, office chairs such as you were sitting in, where they have the pressure points with the casters, that pressure point on the VCT, which is very thin tile, it just doesn't handle the traction back and forth, so it is crumbling. So that's what they were talking about, putting carpet in those certain areas and just eliminating that in the future. Previous administration did not like the carpet. This administration is in favor of putting the carpet there. So I think we're talking about a few offices of installing office carpet in those areas, and then going back and then looking at doing something in the corridors, again, replacing it either with similar VCT or even some type of walk-off carpet or something along those lines. But I think we're talking about a much more reduced square footage than what they are showing in their expansion proposal. So I believe their number that they have is that approximately 88,000. Is that what that number is? I apologize. Wasn't my budget.
82 would be our part, and the other 82 would come over 7 years if it was done in one project.
Yeah. I believe if you're talking about immediate repairs, it could be done, if you're looking at putting on, are you asking for a number on that? Do you want that this evening, or are you looking at something in the future?
Go ahead.
You do it every day, or our go-to person. What would half of that do? You see some bad places. I know we can't do the whole thing.
Half of that, I don't think it would even take half of that. I think it would take less than a quarter of that.
Okay.
Even 40, you're even down to, it would take less than, to do the immediate repairs, I think it would take less than 15,000, I think. Would be more than sufficient.
Is that what you want, Ryan?
Do you agree with that, Commissioner Walker?
That's the number that the school's using to repair the tile in Eastern, 15,000. I fixed that seam years ago, and I think it was about $500, something like that. And probably putting a band of carpet down there is the way to go, because it's going to continue to crack, because that's where the buildings were joined. So, but that's a whole lot less than 164,000.
That's it.
The question is,
I'm not going to bid on it, so.
the question is, Ed, do you want to put any money in this budget?
I would go with what she said, that she could do. What we start patching stuff, it's gonna get worse and worse. But if you can put a Band-Aid over it, so if you get it done, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. But it's gonna be, and you're right, the whole place don't need to be done. But the thing about it is what you run into when you start piecemeal.
Yes, sir.
But if she can say she can look at those numbers, and I know we can't hold you to that, I don't have a problem with that.
So we're not putting anything in the budget for it, we're just gonna take it out of maintenance, either theirs or,
Oh, well, let me increase that number then.
well, you gotta put a number in here, Ed, if
I
you,
would say it was the total quantity is 88,000. I would say cap it at 40. See what could you do at 40?
okay,
And if you don't do it all, you carry it over to the next year.
all right, okay. 40 is the number. All those in favor of spending up to 40 and seeing what we can do to solve part of the problem? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Randy? Ed? Okay. Go ahead, Jerry. Turn your mic on.
The only other one I had, and I forgot about it, was with the BHM library. It was, for salary increase, it was $2,000 and some odd dollars.
That's on page 304.
$2,721.
Okay.
And I'll say that, Martin County and, Hyde County, they've all, agreed to pay as well.
So that's an increase in the operating funds for,
My understanding was it was to go to a COLA, so it'd be a recurring expense, yes.
okay. All right. All right. All those in favor of that expansion for the Beaufort, Hyde, and Martin Library, raise your right hand. Do you have a question, John?
Question.
All right.
Based on the earlier discussion about procedures, do we have to now also vote on the library's 221,000? That's in the outside agency's budget?
That's recurring costs. That, you're under contract for that.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of that estimated cost of $2,721, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-3. John, did you have anything else?
Are we strictly within the outside agencies now? We're strictly talking about?
No, we're expansion.
Expansion, that's right. Just strictly expansion.
Yeah, let's stick with that, and then we'll,
Commissioner Ray, what's your mic?
Sorry about that. The Aurora Fossil Museum, and I've got a question, I guess, is there a chance that could get covered under a quick CARES? Because their fundraisers, like with Roos House, were completely obliterated.
Okay, so there isn't any more CARES money,
Well,
American Rescue Act money?
yes.
Okay. Yes, if you want to open that door, yes.
Okay. I understand what you're saying about opening the door.
It does allow you to provide funding to agencies, nonprofits and other agencies and private businesses that were impacted by COVID, and you can assist them with grants or loans or just give it to them.
Right.
Yep, so.
Okay. Why don't I hold off on the Aurora until we get into that discussion about what we're going to use the.
I would be a little bit concerned if you specifically went to one agency and said, we want to use ARP funds for them. I could see there being a push to say, you need to put a program in place that allows others to apply or be eligible instead of just picking.
Yep. Okay. I would like to put into play the Sydney dive team, the 25,000. Of course, maybe that could also be under the relief funds. They're not, it's not probably as closely tied to COVID. So let's put that on the table.
Yeah, best I could tell, that would not fall under American Rescue Act. It is not related to COVID. It is a general emergency response. I just don't think it would work.
So I would like to see us give the Sydney dive team 25,000. All they do for this community and the county and those around us is, I'm not quite sure how they're able to pull it all off. But their safety is ultimately important.
Other counties that they set it also. What do they do?
I can't tell you that.
We can do this, but we can't take a 4-H program for a child. But you want to do this.
There's nothing wrong with what you want to do. But when you sit down and here's a program for children and you can't go along with that.
When did I not go wrong?
You just did a few moments ago. When we were trying to get that garden, you said just the garden. It's just the garden.
Oh, the cooperative?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Well, so for your information on the 4-H, 4-H is pretty well funded under the what is it, the program for,
The Cooperative Extension Service.
no,
But I mean, it's under,
but the 4-H also provides programs for the kids and summer camps for them. That is funded through the, was it L,
Nutrient is a contributor, aren't they? Some other,
yeah, but there, what the heck's the name of it?
there's a fund, a capital fund, or a special fund.
Jeez.
But I was just, the thing about me is I was just looking at the video.
Yeah.
well, I guess where I'm coming from on it is that one of the things they do in this county is recover bodies. And, that gets to be very, very important to either one of our citizens or somebody that's here and there's a boating accident. If I understood, Nutrient had already give them 25 to 50,000 that helped them get part of the equipment they needed, but this would finish it. This is a one-time. This is not reoccurring. And they do other things in other counties. And I understand what you're saying, Ed, but when you take all the shoreline that we've got in Beaufort County now, and you think about the tax base, and you think about what happens every weekend, starting Memorial Day weekend, it's pretty important. These, in most cases, are not going to save somebody, but hopefully they can recover and be part of the search team. So I mean, I'm inclined to help them because I think it's a vital part of our infrastructure, being a boating community with 9 boat building companies now.
Anybody gonna drown out there building their boat But like I said, I mean, I don't have a problem with the program. But what we building boats, ain't no water where they building them boats at. If they had to get somebody out there, Corny or somebody to go get them. But what I was trying to get you, and it is important, but it's also important for other counties to contribute.
Right.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I would give something, but you go all the way to Jacksonville and everywhere else, and I hate to keep going back and forth at it. But my interest is these folk right here in Beaufort County. That's my interest, and I support them wholeheartedly. But I want other folks to ante up too.
I would consider it if we could come up with a fee schedule that they could charge these other counties. I mean, if we're linked to a mutual aid agreement, well, we're the only ones that have a dive team. So how is another county going to reciprocate something in a mutual aid method? Because they don't have a dive team, we do. I mean, it's a very unique thing, but I can tell you this, I'm probably the only one that have actually gone out and drug for bodies. I've spent many a night. And the way they do it now is a whole lot easier than just pulling around a Hopkins lure, which is what I was doing, and struck every route out there. So I really appreciate it. I would like to see it done, and I would be very interested, and I would be willing to help if I knew they could come up with a fee schedule based on mileage, based on time on scene. If they could do that, I'd be very interested in this.
Carney, you want to step up? First of all, I think there are other dive teams now. This is not the only one.
They're not the only one, but they are heavily utilized in the counties surrounding us and more north and east in resource. And Beaufort County is not the only county that assists them in small contribution. They are very good at trying to go after grants. We have worked with them through state emergency management grants on other things to help with dive suits. You guys will remember that came through us a couple of years ago. But they do not rely or target just Beaufort County. They have asked and received some, I call it minor funding, anything from $2,000 to $5,000. And I've tried to text Steve to get an exact number for you. I don't have that. But I just know in talking to them, they have had some limited support in some of the other counties in which they do a lot of work. But they also help with the law enforcement side, evidence recovery, of course the cadaver thing, but they help us out with search and rescue. Before it is a recovery, they come in as a search and rescue team on the water as well. So just wanted you to know that they do get some funding. They're not just targeting Beaufort County. They're looking anybody to help. And they have been able to get some limited funding from those others, but they're still a great need.
John, would you agree to lower the number to maybe 10,000? I want to do something to show the support
I think if we
for
bought
what they
them-
do in the county.
If we bought them one of the two,
I asked that. They said that didn't help them.
they
both
need
help
two, but if we pay for one of them, and they find somebody else to pay for the other one, then.
them. Okay.
Keep in mind, this is additional funding. We're already giving them money.
Yeah, but this is just a one-time for equipment.
We've also had discussions with them over the years about charging for their services, especially to places they did not make a donation at all, and they have refused to do that. So I don't know why Beaufort County should fund a county like Carteret County that's rolling in money. Some of these other counties, they can afford to give a good bit of money for this. I don't know why we should put up $25,000 or even $12,500.
I think he said that they could not charge fees. Isn't that what he said in the presentation?
When you, I'm assuming, let's just say they're somewhere else and you need a dive team, and you call the nearest one, do we reimburse them for any?
We try to reimburse for fuel. There's not a fee schedule in that. If a fee schedule were to come into play, we'd ask the state to come in and try to help provide a team, and from that end start figuring out the fee schedule coming in. For clarification, they do not have routine funding. They have had some funding in the past at different times from Craven and Bertie County, but it's not a annual funding that comes from them. But as far as, because they are so dependent upon donations as well and fundraising, I think to some degree, if you start going down the road of charging fees, your fundraising stops, and then you have to be totally fee sufficient. So they started out as that grassroots effort of, we want to be able to be a service to our community, and that's where they've tried to stay.
Do you want to vote on 25, or do you want to,
I'll vote on 12.5.
okay. All those willing to put in 12.5, raise your right hand. Those opposed, 6-1.
I know what it means to have equipment and not be able to use it properly. You can't afford the rest of it.
Well, this, the way it's been explained to me, this is all about safety too. This hopefully doesn't endanger the diver that's there.
Right, but they can use the equipment they have, they just have to strap it to their head. The helmet's a whole lot easier and safer. So we just have to go with that.
Anyone else on the expansion items? Go ahead.
We had talked about, and I don't know whether this is annual or not, about the recreation, Parks and Recreation.
We change it to another category, or is this part of expansion items?
This is part of expansion.
Okay.
Okay. We currently contribute to 7 different recreation departments. Those, well, I'm getting there.
There is an item in there as it relates to Chakawinity.
Yeah. Okay, let me back up then. I'll put this one aside for now. I'm sorry.
All right. I'm going to throw the one out there from the economic development area. The recommendation to increase the salary for the specialist and to offset that with dropping the contract with NC East Alliance.
Now, let's see, we just took someone and we upgraded them into a position, gave them a big raise during the past year. Now we're going to give that person another big raise during the same year, and we're going to deny us a service for economic development in doing this that we have been getting, and that's mostly leads that we get from them. I just don't think this is a good idea. We raise and we raise again and we raise again. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
From what I understand, Hood, it isn't but us and 1 or 2 other counties that's in this alliance. I mean, this alliance is falling by the wayside. That's from what I understand.
If I understood it correctly, this would bring that employee up to the range that an economic developer at that level would be making, and that, that would mean more to Beaufort County than it would be to continue our alliance with NC East.
Well, the problem I have with it is we missed speccing the job out the first go around. So how did we make that mistake on the first go around? I just have a problem when you're jumping people $10,000 and $15,000 at a pop twice in a year, and we have people who claim that they're experts in personnel that are evaluating these positions. It looks to me like a buddy system.
Martin, come up to the mic.
I will admit, I made a mistake when I first put the wages for the position. I was going from a secretary to a specialist, and until the specialist came on board, I didn't realize the true nature of the position and what they would be able to do. Unfortunately, the person that is there now, has been recruited away from us, and also she had some personal reason for leaving. In further study of what she was able to do and what tremendous help she was to me, and how she could stand in for me when I was at another meeting, or could take on a project that when we had a number of projects, and that was particularly relevant during COVID because we had a lot of small businesses coming forward to need assistance, and I think that will be going forward. So we've started helping much more small businesses. So the person who was in the position is no longer with us. She's actually earning probably about 10% more than this, maybe a bit more actually. And this position basically I'll be hiring again for, and I believe the market rate for the economic development specialist is around $50,000 in today's market. So yes, I admit I made a mistake the first time, but this is, I think, going to help move the county forward in terms of economic development. I need somebody who does have the skills with a university degree.
Is this a position, since that individual is not here now?
Right.
Is this something we can defer and do as a reclassification or in June or July?
I'm hoping, well, I'm hoping to be able to use the salary that won't be used for the position to get somebody temporarily in, because there's a big workload right now, and then work in June and July in terms of recruiting the person, putting the advert out there so that I'll have a salary to go with the job rating. I'm hoping particularly to probably get somebody maybe from ECU that would be graduating, so before they leave the area.
Brian?
And I just want to be fair to Martin, and I want to be fair to the board when we talk about this, because Commissioner Richardson made a comment that our folks weren't professional in what they did, and I just want to help say something about that, because the position that the economic development position was spec'd by Martin. He wrote that up as he wanted it. It did go to our HR consultant, who looked at it and said, based on this job description, this is what the market will bear. This is the market position. We don't talk about individual people in positions. That's not the way you do position management. You look at the job and the job function. I can be the greatest person in the world, but I'm in a specific job description and I do that job. I may have the ability to do all grades of other things, but that doesn't have anything to do. The person is not who you look at. You look at the position and the job description. Since that time, Martin has looked at the position and said the position needs to be these additional things. The HR person our HR consultant looked at it again and said, based on these changes, this is now where that position would rank in the market. So just want to be fair to Martin in that and be fair to Commissioner Richardson.
Now, you're creating a new position is what you're doing.
In essence, yes. They're adjusting the job description and adjusting it from what Martin initially thought that he wanted to a higher position. I don't think it is an economic developer position. It is an economic development specialist. It would take on additional functions, but it wouldn't be at the economic development level, because that would mean we would have two. But again, I don't try to get involved in these, but I just want to make sure that I was fair to both sides on that one.
Who did you have before this person left?
I had basically a secretary, and with modern technology, I don't need a secretary. I need somebody who can, as Brian's saying, do a lot more specialized things and also be confident enough to step in when necessary in economic development projects.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in support of this change, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-3. Okay. Yes.
And I don't think we did this was when we did the longevity and the 1% COLA. I think we just did it for the regular county employees and not for the enterprise.
Yes, sir. Typically, and we would just get you to vote that as you get to that point, but typically, once you do it for general fund, we would assume that you meant that for the enterprise funds as well, but we would also get you to just take a straw vote to make sure that's clear.
Any other items under the expansion before we leave that?
I've got a general question that has to do with the expansion, doesn't come in here. How many trailers and how many additional vehicles are we buying in this entire budget? Above what we have now?
I don't think we're buying anything new. I think we're replacing. As far as I know, we're only replacing vehicles.
No additions to the fleet?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, typically the way we do things is we replace, we have a vehicle replacement schedule. So we have one that rolls off and then we have one that we replace. Now, again, the only folks that I know of, the ambulance, we are replacing. That one will be a replacement. And Charlie, I don't know from y'all's side if y'all are planning on keeping anything that you wouldn't surplus out, because you got a bunch that are going out. So I'm not aware of anything that we're requesting new, because then we would have probably said that.
How about trailers?
I'm not aware of any trailers new that we have. I mean, the only trailers that we currently have are either water department trailers that are moving equipment, and I don't think there are any scheduled for replacement, or EMS has some, or emergency management has some, I think the sheriff's office has some, but I'm not aware of any new ones.
Additions to the fleet?
Any additions to fleet, no, sir, I'm not aware of any.
All right, if there's no other changes or comments on the expansion, then we'll open it up for other areas within the budget recommendation. And John, this is where yours, as it relates to the recreation, would come up.
Start with that.
Yes.
The county has, what, almost 48,000 residents. Roughly 15,000 live in municipalities. So the vast majority of people do not live in municipalities. I think that our contribution to the children and the sports that keeps them out of trouble and keeps them engaged and participating needs to be improved. Okay? And as a result of that, I would recommend that we allocate a total of $100,000 to the recreation, parks and recreation throughout the county, and develop a allocation schedule to where that money would go. So that it really goes up about 44,000 from what it is right now.
How do you suggest the allocations?
Well, we looked at two different ways. One was the actual percent of the population by the current communities. That doesn't get you there because it doesn't take into account the people that live outside the communities. We looked at it by zip code, and Washington's zip code is so huge that it eats up a big chunk of it. I'm not quite sure what the allocation ratio ought to be. But we need to explore that and figure out how to be able to help the youth of the county continue. Okay. By the way, it's JCPC. Okay, that funds the 4-H activities. Okay.
Part of it.
Part of it. Yeah. So, the camps.
John, I appreciate your sentiment. I too believe that we should do whatever we can and can afford to, especially years not like this year, to help children who could be risk-prone with society like it is. But think about last year. I don't think there was a whole lot of activities for children, and a lot of the money that we've allocated wasn't even used for recreation. I think if we stay, because it was sports, you couldn't play sports. You had to wear a mask to play sports. The kids aren't going to
A lot of them
mask.
did.
Well, a lot of them didn't. And they're just not going to do it, and that makes good sense. I think it's adverse to children's health to wear a mask and play sports, especially being outside. That was a foolish mandate from our governor.
I would challenge you to show me the numbers. Just like,
Numbers for
yeah,
what?
just like
The people
with Hood is with Charlie.
There's no participation. What numbers are there to show?
There was lots of participation. All
Well,
you had to do is go to the fields.
Yeah, they continued to play, they just didn't have a full season last
okay,
year.
well, this year we'll have a full season, we'll be at parity, and then maybe we can do an increase next year.
I don't have a,
True.
Go ahead.
stop that. I don't have a problem with what you're asking, but the problem that I have is we want to make sure that it's done fairly. And if you're only asking for a $44,000 increase, and if we can figure out a way, or you look at some way to make it fair, that everybody be treated fairly, then I don't have a problem with it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think I go along sort of with what Ed said, because if you start adding more money to this, you're opening up a can of worms on how to divide the money, and it's going to get to be very political, and it's going to get to be more and more trouble. The only reason that the county gives money now in a recreation program to these communities was started by President Nixon as a grant program that from the federal government that this counties wound up getting saddled with because the money came through them, and we kept funding and kept decreasing and kept decreasing and kept decreasing the amount of money. So, you know, I think you're going to cause a lot more controversy than you're going to do good.
What are the thoughts that I've had, because John and I had been talking about it, and I hadn't had a chance to share this with him, but most of the people that are heading these leagues are already talk to each other. My grandson in the baseball program, they play games in Bath, they play games in Chocowinity, and they play games in Washington. So these communities are already working. Wonder if we couldn't just ask each of the 7 municipalities to recommend one person to be on some kind of advisory and say, if you had a $100,000 budget, how would you divide it? Because they go to different places, so the facilities and what they do is important. And just like Pantigga and Belhaven, I mean, to me, that's a match that those two should be working together. We shouldn't be sending money to Pantigga and money to Belhaven. Now, I don't know about Aurora and Chocowinity, but I think that if we would let the people that have to come up with the money and run the program, that they might be able to give us some guidance. I think looking at zip codes and population is not going to get us there. I think if these people get together, they can decide that, you know, based on the size of that community and their program, you know, round it off and give that a shot.
I think it's another handout is all that it is.
Well,
it's not enough money worth the aggravation and trouble that you're going to have to go through to figure out how to divide the money. And it's going to become very political, very quick. And the people that ask me questions, I'm going to send them to the people that voted for this. So you guys go for it. You're not going to like it when you do it. We've been into this before, and it doesn't work.
I see Brian smiling. I mean,
I'll just tell you that I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the municipal side where it is a challenge. And what I could suggest to you is if you wanted to set a certain pot, if your goal is to try to help kids, everybody pays something to participate in sports. And if your goal is to help children offset some of that cost, then maybe you consider setting a pot of money aside and tell each of the municipalities who have recreation programs that you will offset the cost of recreation per child by $5, $10, and that they can only be registered in one place. So if I'm participating in Washington, then Washington would send me a list, would send the county a list of 50, 60, 100 players, and you'd say, okay, we will pay you back $10, and you've got to discount them $10 off their recreation fee or something. The challenge from the county side becomes, how do you equitably provide that to all county residents? So, and what I'll tell you is, in a previous county I worked with, the way we did that was we had county recreation facilities. So we put our money into the county recreation facility, and we didn't do programming. Municipalities did programming, but we had a park, and we made sure it was a nice park, and everybody in the county could use that park. We don't have that opportunity here, so you've got to try to look at something that equally tries to touch all folks who are looking to do it, and that may be an opportunity to do it if you want to do it. Otherwise, you get people competing saying, well, because I can tell you how the municipalities, if I were sitting in the city manager's chair, I'd say, hey, we need to do that by population. Or we need to do that by the number of kids that participate. You need to give me my percentage based on the number of kids that participate. And that shifts the funding percentage. So if you just said, okay, well, our goal is to try to help the kids. So we're going to discount the kids' rate by $10. I don't know what you charge them, but we're going to discount them by $10. You give us those names, and we'll write you a check to the municipality for that times 10. But that's just the issue.
And you'll never get credit for that. When you do that, you will never get credit for it. You will be criticized if you get criticized for not doing enough. I just say leave this thing alone.
One other question, Mr. Manager. You stated that your increase was 44,000.
Yeah, or what we've been funding.
So this is just something I want to ask you, and we hash it out. How about if the increase that you're asking for, we just increase every municipality, divide that by what, we got 7, and just divide it by that and just let them have it? Would that work?
I think you then get into, if you're just divided by 7, then you have some folks who are going to say, well, I'm a bigger program. That's not fair. Somebody's always going to say that's not fair.
And you're right. That's the reason I'm trying to make it fair. If the fair part about it is, if Washington is 10,000 people, is it fair for them to get $80,000 and to divide 20 with the rest of them? So I don't know. I'm trying to make it so that everybody could have some help.
Correct. And population doesn't necessarily equate to children. You may have a bunch of older retired folks and they don't have kids. So you may have a larger population in one area in that municipality that may not equate to the number of kids. So if you can tie it back to number of kids, what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is what? To try to help kids participate in recreation, then target the kids.
Well, I don't know whether you realize this or not, but we have teams in Washington that'll go after some kids in bat because they're good. That's called, what do you call that? We already have recruiting going on across community. John, do you want to back up, or what do you want to do?
Well, the only comment I'd make is that subsidizing players is not what I was trying to accomplish. It's more of an infrastructure, okay, so that the communities can't afford to put the resources in. And since 70% of the population is in the county and not in the cities, and those people are going to the cities to play in those leagues, there's no place else for them to go.
Right, and then what I would say to you, and I'm not trying to argue it either way, but just to lay it out for you. So if I live in the city, I'm paying additional city taxes for additional infrastructure. I pay more so I have a recreation program. I pay more so I have a police department instead of just a sheriff's office that covers the entire county. I pay a little more for whatever other services. That's why people live in municipalities most of the time, because they want a little higher level of service. So if I live in the city, then I'm paying for that. If I live in the county, I'm not really doing that, so you charge a differential rate to the folks who live out in the county if they come participate in my municipality. And you say, okay, we're charging $20 a head to play baseball. If you live in the county and you don't live in my city, then you pay $40, because you need to help offset that cost because you're not paying taxes in my municipality. And most folks get that. Most folks will understand that. But what I will also tell you is, I was at the city of Washington when we pitched that same proposal, and they said, it won't work, people will lie to us. And I said, people will always lie to you about where you live. So, but, I mean, that is another way to handle it. We just don't have the infrastructure at a county level to say we're going to put money in our own infrastructure to ensure that it's seen by everybody.
I guess there isn't the support unless we have the formula. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I'm willing to do something. I mean, you need to do something. I mean, like Frankie said, we got kids that's playing Washington, everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like traveling teams within the county.
Commissioner Rebholz, have you been asked for specific needs by any?
Yeah, Chocowinity. Yeah.
Okay, I've noticed that they had this 36,
Right.
and that was never pitched to us, so I guess that was.
They didn't show up the other night.
Right, so I don't even know what all that is.
I didn't either.
Well, I'm gonna make my famous statement is, I don't know what the county is sitting here worrying about $5, this small amount of money for recreation. We're making more trouble than it's worth. We need to be talking about how to control drugs and what we could do on some really serious problems, because let people take care of their own children and let the municipalities take care of their business, and let's worry about serious stuff.
The question on the table really is, are we going to adjust the numbers that are already in the budget? John?
Is that a motion?
Well, I'm just asking John. I mean, you can make a motion too.
Well, I make a motion that we leave this item and go on to something more important.
Leaving the numbers in the budget as is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it doesn't have to be a motion. This is a straw vote, right? So.
We can make a motion in a straw vote.
All right. All those in favor of leaving it as is, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. All right. It's open.
Well, I have what's going to be a really controversial item here. Charlie, sit up straight now. The sheriff has let 13 deputies go, created 13 cars. He's got a roster of odometer readings that is about 50,000 per car, which is a pretty new fleet. We've got 4 sheriff's cars ordered with downsizing, even with the 5 people that we added, 8 people. That's 8 less cars that we need, and we're buying 4 new cars. I move that we cancel the order for the 4 new cars, and that we consider next year what the sheriff needs, because he's already oversupplied with transportation now.
Okay. You remember what the dollar amount is for the 4 cars?
I think the meeting was that they've already been built and they're on their way.
No, they're on order, and they can be canceled. There's always a cancellation clause. Why do we want to pay $100,000 for something that we can avoid that expense on when we've already got a yard full of cars?
Wasn't that in last year's budget?
Mr. Chairman, I would hate to say to you, and I don't mean to disappoint Commissioner Richardson, but the county's obligated to sign a purchase order for those. We are obligated, we have to pay that money. We have to receive those cars. Or you have to pay the money. You don't have to receive them, you can pay them the
Well,
money, but you're obligated to pay them.
there's plenty of things that can be done with the cars. There may be somebody else that wants the cars. There's all kinds of ways to avoid this expense if we have the desire to avoid the expense. But if you want to keep a new fleet of cars sitting out there and let the public see what's going on and how unwisely their money is being spent, then let the 4 cars come on in here.
Any other discussion before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor of pulling was it 4?
There are currently 4 vehicles that I think we're supposed to take delivery of them in a couple of days. But there are 4 vehicles that have already been ordered, already been processed, and are on their way, and I think within a week they'll be here, I think, which
Well,
you have an obligation.
let me do some more talking on this. What I'm interested in is the county not bearing the expense of what's probably going to be $100,000 for 4 new cars, when we already know that we've got at least 8 surplus sitting out there now. So I know we're going to hear the story about they need spares and all this, but I can count in that parking lot. You don't have to be smart to go back and look at the parking lot and see what's going on. And what my motion is, just to be clear, is that we find a way to avoid this expense. And that can be done a lot of ways. The cars can be taken by somebody else. We may have a use for them ourselves in something that we're buying. There's all kinds of ways to avoid expense, and we need to do that. It's managing the public's money well.
In other words, just reallocate the resource wherever you can.
Yeah, and one thing that we might agree to do is how many cars are in the sheriff's budget for next year? 4?
200,000.
4 cars, 200,000 for 4 cars? Then what we can do is take that out of the sheriff's budget for next year, because the cars are going to be delivered so shortly, they're going to fall into next year before they can be outfitted and put into service anyway, and that'll be his 4 cars for next year.
Okay. Charlie?
I agree with what Commissioner Richardson is saying, that we are in a different year with vehicles right now. We did hold on to every vehicle that we had because we didn't know how many positions we were going to have come July. So we are in a position where we have more vehicles than we normally would this year. We are in an interesting position because the vehicles that we would normally get by October and outfitted on the road by November of the same budget year are not here. So I give credit for all of that. And I can say that as a business, it probably, if I was on the other side of the business deal, as far as the vehicles go, I think it seems shady to go across, get quotes, purchase orders, cars built, delivery dates, all of that stuff. So, but I think the opportunity is moving into next year's budget. What I would ask is, we could survive, we could do fine if we didn't receive a vehicle in next year's budget. But instead of it just being a flat cut, maybe have the thought about the radios that we spoke about that are very expensive, that we know that there is an end date in a couple of years that we were going to try to piecemeal and maybe try to reallocate some of that money that you would have spent on vehicles, instead of it being a drop dead cut, that we can make those purchases and get us closer to that 50 or 60 number that we need on radios, instead of not getting vehicles that we need and not getting radios that we need. So that's about as humble a request as I can make for a discussion of the board.
So you're saying in the capital budget, instead of doing the 4 cars, use the same amount of money or less to go ahead and update radios that we've got to do at some point in time in the future?
That would, if I had to come up with an alternative, and just based on the fact that I heard the discussion 2 minutes ago, that without a doubt would be the best alternative to what we have. And I will give it to you, that right now, and if we go back 6 years ago, the plan on the vehicles, it shows that it's working. 6 years ago, we had 3/4 of our vehicles were over 150,000 miles. We worked with county, we worked with finance to come up with a replacement plan so we could make it where we've got an ebb and flow of vehicles coming in and coming out without us having to spend tons of money on maintenance and having unsafe vehicles that our law enforcement are driving. and driving hard to get to our calls that we need to. So the plan is working. We are in an interesting year. We can do something different, and that would just be my shooting from the hip request and recommendation, and I appreciate you hearing me.
Thank you.
Charlie, are these radios mobile or handheld?
These are the handhelds. If it goes back, just to give a brief history of that, when we went to Viper Radios, there was a grant that was offered. I can't remember who it was offered from. That was probably the only reason that we got those radios. That was all handhelds. And then over the next handful of years, we equipped piecemeal to get all of our mobiles to be done. And then that was also part of the big part of that money was through the county fire radio system upgrade that was done that finished that job off. So, but now every handheld that we have, every walkie that we have, so the deputy who is away from the vehicle dealing with whatever that they're dealing with, that's what we're trying to replace for radios that are, I guess, going on probably 12 years now. I don't know the exact, but probably 12 years old that we're trying to replace.
Charlie, as I understand it, there's a drop dead date on these Vipers where we have to change over the Viper design or something is going to change?
For the information that we have, I want to say is at the end of 24, 25. So it's not
have to change anyway.
Yeah, and like I said, the information that I get, it's not that the radios are just going to perform less. When they flip the switch, they're done. So we are kind of behind the 8 ball on that, but we do have time to fix it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to withdraw my original motion and to make the motion that we remove the new car purchases from the sheriff's budget for the coming year and replace it with Viper radio replacement. So we're not cutting his budget, but we are getting something that we need.
And use the cars that are going to come in anyway for next year.
The 4 cars are going to come in anyway, so.
They just be used next year.
Yep.
I'll second if you need it.
Well, you don't need to second. I need to, you can handle that in the budget ordinance, right? Okay.
We need to vote.
All right. Did you have a question?
In the proposal you gave us, you had 60,000 in for the radios.
Yeah, but
Is that just-
that was in the manager's budget, that was torn to shreds.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
But is that the total amount, or is that
No.
25%?
That was us trying to, we have about 10. I want to say we have 10 is the number that we have. We needed to know the actual number of sworn deputies that we're working with, so now we're closer on that. But that's still not a done deal until it's a done deal. We were working on getting a quarter of the way until that drop dead date, but this could put us to the point where we can make that where it's not really a concern and we can work on other concerns.
All right, all those in, go ahead.
Charlie, I promised you years ago that I wouldn't tinker with your budget. But something tell me, something just don't smell right with this changing radios for cars. And I understand why you're doing it, but I just can't support that. I mean, I support you getting your cars. We got you on rotation, and we work hard to get you there. And I understand you got a lot of them in the backyard. But I understand why they're there also. So I just can't support. I just can't support that. And I mean, when 2025 come, I support you getting radios. But this Hail Mary in the middle of my budget, I just can't do it.
It's not in the middle of the budget, Ed. We're doing a budget now. We're cooking a budget right now.
I got
It's
you.
not in the middle
I
of the budget.
understand, but I just,
It's a slight audible.
well, I don't, well, go ahead.
I'm not happy about it. I'm just trying to outthink the situation that we've got, and
Mr. Chairman, we got an agreement here, Ed. I mean, this is rare. We got an agreement on the cars, we got an agreement on the radios.
Now, I think you were here last year. If memory serves me well, we had agreement about those 5 cars, those cars last year, and 5 deputies. And you see what it got us. Newspaper article after newspaper article. So, do you hear me?
But the sheriff
But
will
it
be
only
like
matters
how
if
it
you
is.
read the newspaper.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a vote. All right, you've heard the recommendation. I think we've talked about it enough of moving money from the cars over to the radios. Raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, 6-1. Okay. What's next in the budget before we jump to the enterprise? units.
I've got another item.
All right?
How much money is in this budget for the county park? The county park.
Which part? Wrights Creek?
I mean, well, the only one I know of, unless somebody knows of another one.
I think that's in this year's budget. Because that's a project fund, is it not? That's set up as a...
did away with it.
No. We did get the money back, but we applied and we got funded. And the board committed to put the money in if it was funded.
So we've been funded with a grant.
No, wait a minute. Maybe we hadn't gotten it yet.
I don't think we got
don't think we got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But where we stand with that is we gave it back because we couldn't complete what we needed to do. We came back to the board and said we want to reapply for the part of grant because they said they wouldn't hold it against us. We've done that. The college did that for us. And at the time we did that, we asked you if you got it, would you commit to it? And y'all said yes. And now we're waiting on whether we get approved or not. I'm sorry. The RCCP grant is the one that we did receive. We're still waiting to hear on the...
With any luck at all, we'll be denied. Thank you.
Okay, everyone ready to move into, you want to take water first or solid waste? Or are you going to give us a figure? I tell you what, let's take about a 10-minute break. Anita, do you and Brian have a number? Okay. Can you put it on the screen?
I can't see it.
I can't either. What are these numbers about?
We get them, what you think?
Oh.
You want me to run through,
Uh,
or does it make sense?
Just the total.
I think the total, I think we've had pretty much discussion on each one of them, so.
So your change right now is the highlighted number, and you've added $924,823.
Okay.
And all of that is recurring except for 12,500, because that was a one-time.
All right.
But that's also, the job is what was done for the employees that
Yes, it includes longevity and the 1% COLA up here.
And you got to,
We put the plug number of 302 in for longevity because we don't have a good solid, we know it won't be any more than that, we don't think.
I don't know.
Okay, and he doesn't know whether it's going to be more than that or not. We need to run those numbers.
well, inside the recommended budget included two capital items, one for the community college of 500,000, and then for
450.
450. All right, 450, and then 500 for the storage building in the county's budget.
450 was for that building in Aurora?
No, that's for the boat building
Boat building.
at the college.
The boat building.
That's where the North Carolina bond money, trying to think of the exact name, they had money left over, and I think it's in the neighborhood of 600,000. Yes. It's left over from the drive-in pad and the other public building out there.
Right.
So,
But, as a matter of policy, commissioners need to be thinking about this. The community college for a county this size has an awful lot of square footage in buildings that is not being used efficiently. Think about this. When I was in college, they used the classroom like the classrooms when I was there were used like 5 or 6 times, 5 or 6 different classes a day. take the square footage and the number of seats that Beaufort County Community College has got and run 5 classes through them every day, all those rooms, and you will see that you can handle not only Beaufort County, but Pitt County too. We need to be very careful about increasing square footages out there, because all of the square footages that we vote to increase, the taxpayers have to pay the maintenance on it, the heating, and all this sort of stuff. So as a matter of policy, I don't intend to vote for any more square footages at the community college, because they're not using what they have effectively.
So, Mr. Chairman, they requested $450,000 to match the North Carolina Connect Bond funds to construct a new facility for a boat building program.
I move that we take the boat building program out of the community college for this budget for the community college. And if you have the program, find the funding somewhere else if they want to do the match.
All right. Any other discussion?
That's going to be difficult, because isn't that intertwined with what's going to be built at the high school too? I mean,
Oh, no.
yeah, there's a boat building thing going at the high school, which I always thought that they could be combined. I mean, I know that the high school kids can't do fiberglass, but they could just, stand over there and do that and not mess with the fiberglass. I would have thought that way, but I know that there's money coming from different sources, and it probably wouldn't work out to do that, but just seems like a smart thing to make one building out of, to do one thing.
Well, I think we're increasing our expenses for no good reason at all. I mean, if you've got 9 boat builders in Beaufort County, then you must have 9 training programs for how to build a boat. Why do we need another one? I just don't see it myself. Maybe I'm just a little bit old-fashioned.
You do have a flip phone.
Well, it is part of the program that the president of the college and the superintendent has been working on, trying to have a feeder program coming from the high school going out there. It is one of the biggest industries in the county right now, and has a lot more potential. And when you look at what their needs are, it's getting to be more and more very specialized. It's not only about wood, but it's about fiberglass and electronics and the whole 9 yards. So my recommendation was going to be that we pull that out of the fund balance. So I'll be opposing taking it out of the budget period. So, all right, let's take a vote. All those in favor of pulling the 450, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. On both of those buildings, because of the fact that it's capital expenditure, can we take that out of the fund balance? I guess, would we be pulling it out of this budget, recommended budget?
You have in the past looked at one-time expenditures and then looked at your fund balance and said, we're stronger than we anticipated, which you are a little bit, you're over 35, and said, since this is a one-time expenditure, you would pull it out of fund balance in order to decrease or show that you were not funding other stuff. I mean, from a staff level, we're okay. We just don't want you spending one-time money on recurring expenses, and these are not recurring expenses.
Right. Well, when you look at if we continued to move forward with the expansion items that we're talking about, we have to take something out of the fund balance, or we will have to increase taxes. And, with the numbers that we're seeing, there's no reason to go that right. So it makes sense to use the fund balance because of capital. Yes.
Since we're speaking of fund balance, and I agree, sometimes you need to use the fund balance, but you don't want to have a recurring item. I will proffer to the board that we take 3 pennies out of the fund balance this year and give it back to the taxpayers of Beaufort County. It's been a tough year. Not everybody's made a lot of money. Not a lot of people got money from the government this year. So if you want to help somebody, let's help the taxpayers. 3 pennies, I make a motion.
Well, you got a motion, you don't have a motion on the floor yet.
Well, I make a recommendation on the way we fund the 2 buildings, that it come out of the fund balance. All those in favor of that, raise your...
Well,
Well, we got
Can that still be done and what Stan's talking about?
sure, it's a lot of money in fund balance.
Yeah.
$5 million is a lot of money.
37%, 23 million.
This could be Beaufort County's version of helping COVID
Yeah.
for everybody.
And the money would go back into the economy, and it would be spent, and everybody would benefit.
So we're gonna take up Frankie's motion, and then we're gonna take up Stan's motion, right?
Yeah, got a recommendation?
Okay.
All right, all those in favor of the 920, 950 coming out of the fund balance for the 2 buildings, raise your hand. Did you have a question on the building? Okay. All right, now, discussion on the 3-cent tax.
sorry, I didn't get the vote.
4-3.
Well, you never asked for those opposed, so those opposed, I guess, need.
Okay, those opposed, I apologize. So you, 4-3, okay? Not to take it out of the fund balance,
To take it out. To take it out.
to take it out of the fund balance.
To take it out of fund balance. It won, didn't it? Yeah. Taking out of fund balance, won, yeah.
Okay. I was a little bit confused. All right. All right. John, do you have a comment?
Well, the comment was that I was going to recommend we pull the 500,000 out to begin with for the county building, because I think you've told us now it's up to 1.2 million.
That's what the estimate Barnhill gave us.
So, wait,
I'm not saying that changes my recommendation that we need it, but I think there may be an opportunity to use, or match it with ARP funds.
or do the whole thing with it.
Or do the whole thing. And if you can, then later down the line, you can say we could do the whole thing and you wouldn't have to spend it in the budget.
Right.
Excuse me, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But if you take it out, it's out.
It isn't out of the ARP.
Is that the one that Barnhill gave you 1.2, what was that building?
That was a 16,000 square foot, concrete slab, metal building to, provide storage for county operations.
Did anybody else bid on it?
Well, it wasn't a big, it was a budget number.
It was actually a budget number. They have folks who will estimate things and give you a round budget number. So I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and he said, they have a vertical asset group that does vertical assets. And he said, if we can ever help you, I said, well, okay, you can help me. I need a budget number. So they ran a number and said, roughly right now, it's about $1.2 million to do that. So I'm just looking for a budget number.
Always try to make your budget number higher than it's gonna be. Because you look silly if it does. That's right.
Has the location for that building been determined?
It's you. What we're looking at is the location out by the city of Washington's water treatment plant where we currently own property where we have our treatment plant, the small one out there. That was the recommendation. I mean, it's already county-owned property. And
You want to vote on pulling the 5?
Why wouldn't you build a building like that, for instance, over next to the health department?
we could, if y'all want to put it there, we can put it there too.
Well, one of the things that I have about a building like this, we're talking about maybe putting secure for the sheriff in there. If you get this thing too isolated, somebody's going to break into it when nobody's watching, even though you may have cameras on it and everything else. If you put it over there, then it's public can see it. Plus, the topography is such that you could have a truck unloading ramp. whereas the property that we have down there, we couldn't.
Actually, that was part of the estimate, was a truck well on one end and a grade, at grade level entry on the other one.
Oh.
So that makes
Okay.
it why it's 1.2.
John's recommending pulling the 500 for the storage building. That's the way it says in the budget. So all those in favor of that, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
So I think now you're down to just one building.
Yes.
Okay.
Which would correct the other motion, since we pulled it out. All right?
Stan, we'll go over your motion.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Well, if I understand what he's talking about doing, there's 35 million in that fund, less maybe the million that we just messed with, which is $34 million. And he's talking about taking 3 cents out of it, which, what are we doing, about 700,000 per penny now? 687, okay, round number 700,000. So that's 2.1 million, which would put that fund down to 32 million, which is still very adequate. I agree with Stan. If we're doing something for everybody, we're sitting in here trying to help everybody with things that we've got no business helping them with. Why don't we help the taxpayer by giving him this 5% decrease, which is really what about 3 cents comes to? So let's reduce taxes 5% this year. Why not?
Okay. All those in favor of reducing it 3 cents, 3 pennies, is that correct?
Yeah.
Raise your right hand. Those opposed? Vote 4-3.
It failed 4-3, right?
Yes.
No exercise.
Yeah. Taxpayer rules, we can elect you.
Did you have anything else?
In terms of the budget itself, I would recommend that we reduce the contingency level back to what it was last year. We haven't spent any of it through April. Which should take it from 455,000 to 213.
There was no action for that, was it? You didn't have anything for contingency, did you?
I'm not sure, we didn't spend any contingency. Yeah, we didn't. No, but I mean, it's contingency, we don't spend it unless there's something we have to bring it back to you to spend it. So.
What's the amount that's in the budget right now for contingency?
422,000 and change.
Well, I can support John's motion, cut it back. Where do you want to cut it back to?
213.
I don't have a bit of problem with that.
Okay. All those in favor of that, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-3. Other comments before we go to the enterprise? Okay. Water is first in the book, so that's on page 153. And I guess we need to take the vote on the longevity, the 1%. Is that the only two items? Okay. So we'll do the 1% COLA first. All those in favor of the 1% COLA? Those opposed? 6-1? Okay, 6-1. All right, on the longevity, all those in favor of the longevity plan being implemented, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. All right, what other items do we need to handle in beyond those two?
I think the other item was related to work order system.
The capital expenditure of 20, was that 20,000? 25? Okay. All those in favor of the expansion within the water fund enterprise of 25,000?
That's contained within the budget right now, right? This isn't
It's-
a capital expenditure, right? This isn't an expansion? Is it going to be paid for within their fund balance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yes.
would pull it out of the water fund balance, yes.
It's under the expansion, is it not? Is it also in the water enterprise?
It is in the water enterprise fund, it is. Wholly in that fund.
And that's 25.
25, I know the number's correct.
Okay. Did we vote on it? All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. Do we have to approve the rate increase? Is that part of our, or that's part of the budget ordinance? Okay. Right, but under water. Is there anything else under water? All right, let's move over to solid waste, and we'll do the same thing there on the 1% COLA for solid waste. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
How many employees do we have in solid waste?
I think is it one?
Mr. Chairman, we're doing a percentage of at least 2, maybe 3 employees, two
Okay.
employees. Both their time, the
All right.
portion of their time spent on that enterprise fund.
Okay. Those opposed? Okay, 6-1. All right, we're down to the longevity plan. All those in favor of the longevity, raise your right hand. Those opposed? That's 5-2. And under the expansion, I guess we got to flip back to
413.
413.
And then the numbers start on 419. 413 is the list, and then you're at page 419 on phase
Okay.
1.
Under the expansion, we've had a lot of discussion about the selection and planning for the 2 mega sites, future mega sites. So I'm going to make the recommendation that we do that as part of the expansion under solid waste.
Is that the 167,000?
No, that's the 50,000. That's the last line there, Hood, where it says consultant engineering.
What page are you on?
413, I'm sorry, 413.
The actual justification page is on 422 that gives you the detail.
All those in favor of that expansion, raise your right hand. 7-0. I was not here when we had the discussion on phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Did that take place the other night, Jerry?
It did.
It did. I mean, I would like to see us do something as it relates to repairs.
I think that would come under phase 1, is that correct, Ms. Smith?
Phase 1 was the safety repairs,
That's all safety on
Well-
phase,
filling some stuff.
okay. Anybody want to make a recommendation?
I would support Phase 1 site repairs, given the fact that we don't know which sites we're not going to close or are going to close, and it's going to be several years out before the mega sites are up and running. And we've already said we're not going to close any sites until the mega sites are up and running.
But
Okay.
didn't phase two, the county-owned sites? And with
Correct.
that, they were talking about fixing potholes, which is, I get calls all the time.
Well, phase one, I'm assuming that the site like at Yatesville, and I'm not sure what other sites, but that is a safety issue there with that temporary structure. Is there other, I'm assuming it includes some other sites under,
Yes, sir. The phase one included the retaining wall repairs. Let me go to my descriptions. Which would include retaining wall repairs, removing the unsafe structures, installation of barriers, railings and bollards, entrance regrading, new stone, and gate and fencing repairs. So the potholes at the county-owned sites, Commissioner Walker, it would again just include regrading and additional of stone. It would not include any addition of asphalt at any of the county-owned sites. That the installation of asphalt at the county-owned sites was the phase two work.
okay, we got phase one on the table. All those in favor of putting that in the budget, raise your right hand. All right, that's 7-0. Did anybody want to go beyond phase one? No.
I don't think you want to.
Okay.
You're currently, we were at, you had 355,000 in fund balance, you knocked off 50, it took you to 300, 167, so you're 140 some left in fund balance. I think you want to go ahead and learn that.
Okay. Anything else in the, we got to vote on the increase of $5?
That's we've already baked that in, so that's part of your overall budget.
Okay, budget ordinance.
I mean, unless you want to do something different, it's already in the.
Okay. Anything else? Brian, do you or Anita have anything else?
I think we're good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're at the point now where we need a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry.
I asked for the chart of accounts to be presented tonight. I don't know where it is. I haven't seen it.
Yes, I emailed that and asked if anyone wanted a hard copy to let me know so I could provide a hard copy.
Well, I asked for it tonight to be presented at this meeting so we could use it.
We can bring it up on the
That was a
screen.
very specific request. Well, let me,
I have it for you. It's electronic on the screen if you'd like for me to put it on the screen.
I don't sit there and stare at my computer screen. I'm busy working, making a living.
No, I'm
So I
saying
just check it,
we
you
can
know.
put it on the screen right
Sometimes
now.
I go 2 or 3 days and don't look at it. So don't rely on that as notices to me. I asked for the chart of accounts for this reason, and I asked the manager to correct me if I present this erroneously. Right now, department heads, staff can transfer funds from one account to the other in the top 2 accounts in the lines in the chart of accounts. I want to go down to about line 6 in the chart of accounts. What this will allow us to do is, if you go down to line 6, they will, when funds are transferred in any of the accounts above line 6, commissioners will be notified. We have to approve it, and we can ask questions as to why we're transferring these funds. Some examples are, if someone is spending a lot of money in one account and running out of money and spending a lot less in another account, I think commissioners need to know what's going on. Why are we spending more money than we anticipated in this account, and why are we not spending money that in the other account? Our budget, you know, and everybody gets mad at me when I say this, is a fat, sloppy budget. Commissioners need more control, need to know more, and have more control about what's going on in the county. The sheriff is a great example of somebody who whips these accounts around and does whatever he wants to do. We are the people who look after the public's money, and we have a responsibility to see to it that it's spent efficiently and that we know what's going on. So I move that we go down to line 6 in the chart of accounts, and that becomes the cutoff, and it will go into budget ordinance for the transfer of funds between accounts. And I think we'll be a lot more knowledgeable about what's going on when we do that in county government.
Can I?
Yes.
The chart of accounts is 120-some pages long. I'm not really sure what you're referring to when you talk about that.
I'm not expert on how this is done. I have done cost accounting, and I've had to maintain and have run things based on cost where accounts are coded. My understanding is there's 9 major divisions?
I'm not sure what you mean by divisions. The sheriff has 3 divisions, is that what you mean? We have probably 20-some departments.
No, I'm not talking about organization chart divisions. I'm talking about within the chart of accounts, there's a string of numbers.
Okay, we can look at, for example, if you go to general government and go to the governing bodies detail ledger on page 30. There's about 20 there. Within the sheriff's office, there's probably 60 or 70. The governing bodies would be the smallest we have on page 30.
Well, how do we define right now when the commissioners approve the transfer of funds between accounts?
So currently, and this is adopted within the budget ordinance every year as a section of the budget ordinance. Currently, in the current year, and what we would propose for next year is that if it's within a department, so if we're looking at page 30, if we're within the governing board, then we would be able to move money within line items. The department head could recommend that to the finance officer, to myself, and then I would review that and either approve it or go back to them and tell them that I'm not going to approve that. So that's a line item transfer within the department itself. Does it increase the overall departmental budget? It just moves it between the line items. If we're moving money between departments, that requires not only my signature, but the manager's signature. And then it gets reported to the board. If it increases the overall budget any at all, that has to come before the board. So you really got 3 separate types of transfers.
What we need to do is defer this discussion until Monday night. Let me look at what you have sent me, and then I'll come up with a specific definition as to how to make the control on this.
Hood, see if you can help me. I'm on page 48. Look on page 48. And I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying at this point in time. That anything below 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anything below hospitalization employee, you want them to come to us if they're moving money between life insurance and utilities for the old jail?
No, it's based on costing codes. It's not based on the lines that are on this.
Okay.
Right
Okay.
here.
All right.
It's based on costing codes.
You're going to come up with that?
I need to look at the costing codes so that I can see how the system works and then how far down to go on the code.
Okay.
It's based on numbers.
Costing codes relate to these.
That's right, they do.
Okay? So-
Yeah.
So these are just the data with, a description without the code. So what you're gonna be doing is talking about these things on page 48.
Well,
I mean, there's a code next to each one of those things.
somewhere there's a code, there's not a code in this book.
Right.
All right. Let me go back and refine, since I don't have the information with me here tonight, I want to define this, and we'll bring it up Monday night before we pass the budget.
All right, we'll allow you to do that. Any other, did we have, Brian?
It's just so I don't, Mr. Richards, so you don't do a whole lot of work too much. I just want to make the board clear on what the legal budgetary control is by the statute, okay? So this is from the folks who write the law and interpret the law and help us understand it when we ask questions. State law limits a governing board's legal budgetary control to the department level, functional level, or project level. That's General Statute 159.13. It says the statute does not define function code, but it commonly is understood to mean one of two things: either major categories of expenditures within a department, such as salary, benefits, capital, operations, or major categories of expenditures that cut across departments. Most local governments employ the first interpretation as a way to use for the board to control expenditures at a more granular level than the department level. The statute does not allow a governing board to legally mandate expenditures within a department at the line item level. It is true that many boards require departments to prepare a line item budget to justify the aggregate budget numbers. The line item budgets are often referred to as working budgets, but they are not the legal budget ordinance adopted by the board. For departments that the Board of County Commissioners exercise more control over, the board can set the expectations that department heads follow the working budgets. The recourse of not doing so is disciplinary action by the board. However, the Board of Commissioners does not have that ability over the sheriff or the Register of Deeds employees. So essentially what Carol Malonzi is saying is, what we show y'all the actual line item budget. So each line item, and you can hold us to that and say, you know, we want to see that, and we want to see that every month, and we provide that information to you. But at the ordinance level, the lowest level you can go is either department level or functional level, or project level, which you already do project level. You know, when we have a project account, that's at that level. So it's either at a department level where you would say, don't go above the department, or at a functional level, which the functional level is a little lower. So if you look at the way we roll it up, it would be personnel, benefits, operating capital. The way you rolled up the sheriff's office, the way you're budgeting the sheriff's office, you could request that be budgeted that way for the entire county that way. But you can't go any lower than that. The budget ordinance doesn't allow you to go any lower than that. You can hold us to it, but by the ordinance level, the statutes say you can't go any lower than that on the ordinance level. The problem is, if you were to go in more detail than that on the ordinance level, it would throw us out of compliance with the ordinance almost on a daily basis sometimes, and would subject us to audit findings. Because if something moved in a line item and y'all didn't approve it, then it'd be an audit finding immediately.
Okay, I know you've sent me that before, but would you send it to me again? Okay.
All right, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? For your information, Brian and Katie, the commissioners have agreed that we'll come back, all of us up at the front, if you, for Monday night. So if you want to